This is Gemara in Gittin, Daf Nun Aleph, and we like to dedicate one last year to a close friend of the Daf, whose mother's yahrzeit was yesterday on Tes Zayin Tammuz. So today's Daf for Shavasar Tammuz, we'd like it as well on such an auspicious day to dedicate as a Chos Alina's Neshama for Feguita Bas of Arileva Koyin Visiyata Dishmaya, the learning of the entire Chabura, learning on a day that it's difficult to learn, on a tainus, on a fast day, should bring Feguita Bas of Arileva Koyin to a higher place in Ganei Den Shel Maila. And we're holding on Nun Amid Beis at the two dots, approximately 14 lines from the bottom. Says the Gemara, Ein moitziin la'achilas peiros. The Mishnah taught us that if someone has karka and someone has metaltlin produce and they're taken, what is the din? You collect from the karka first. You do not collect from the produce, from the mishubadim b'makayim sheyesh nechasin b'nei chayrin. So says the Gemara, my time, what is the reason of this? So Amar Ula explains, Ula Amar Ishakesh, Levishen Ksuv, and you know why? The reason is because it's not written into the shtar, and since it's not written into the shtar, therefore it's not something that can be collected from. Amar Le Rav Abba Ula, what do you mean? V'mazayin isha v'abana is the command of chsivi dami. When it comes to supporting one's wife, when it comes to supporting one's children, it's as if it is written. And even in such a case, you still do not collect from the peiros, from the metaltim. So why are you telling me it's because it's not written down? Clearly that's not the reason. So Amar Le'ula responds, over there when it comes to the support of the wife, of the children, this was the takana. Ksuvin hein eitzel b'nei chayrin. The takana was that they're written only with regard to b'nei chayrin. Ve'ein ksuvin hein eitzel mishubadim. Meaning, even though it's written in the ksuba that you're going to have to pay the wife and the kids, that writing's takana was only to collect from b'nei chayrin, and specifically not to collect from mishubadim. Because they are not written. Continues the Gemara, Amar Alei Rav Zeir Rav Asi. The command chesivi dami. Asks Rav Zeir to Rav Ashi, 1 second. So again, the first case, Mazayin Isha ve'habanais. And you do not collect from them. Amar lei, the exact same exchange, meaning Rav Abba, Rav Asi, Rav Yechlan had the same exact shaklavataria lefisha in ksuvim with the same kasha from Rav Zira as Rav Abba had to Ula. The Gemara continues with another reason why another reason why you do not collect from other karka. If someone buys a piece of karka, someone buys a piece of land, and it was stolen, and now he wants to get compensation, he does not collect from other karka of the seller. Why not? Rav Chanina Amar teaches Rav Chanina, Lefisha in ksuvin, because they're not fixed. Since it's not fixed, therefore there's no way to protect oneself, therefore you do not collect from other mishubadim. So now, based off of this, the Gemara asks on Rav Chanina, Ibai lahu Rav Chanina, ksuvin ukesuvin ba'i. And from the contrast, we'll understand better what's going on over here. How does this work? When we said that the issue was that it's not ksuvim, that it's not written down, is the nekuda that it's not written down, or is the nekuda that it's not written down in addition that it's also not set as a fixed price? Because there's really two things that are going on over here. In every one of these cases, when someone sells the land to Ruvain, and that land was stolen. So now Ruvain's all upset. The land, he goes back to the seller and he says, you have to pay me back. The seller says, I'm sorry, I don't have any cash, but there's a different field that I sold prior. Can he go, or after, can he go and collect from that field? So the answer is no. So the question is, why not? Is it because it's not a set amount, or because it's not written and it's not a set amount? And Rashi over here on the top line speaks out, Ve'islei de milva al beshi ksuva tarfa mimishabdi, that if it would be ksuva, then he would collect from the mishubadim. So says the Gemara, someone dies and leaves over 2 daughters, Uben and a son. And the first one comes. And the first daughter comes before her sister, and she takes 1/10 of the property for her nidunya. And the second daughter does not get a chance to come to collect before the son dies. And now these 2 sisters, these 2 daughters, have full rights to the entire estate. But the problem is that the first daughter, the first sister, already took an Easter Nechasim, already took 1/10. So what do we do now? Amar Rav Yechanan teaches Rav Yechanan, Shniya Vitra. The second daughter forfeits her right because she did not collect it, and therefore the rest of the estate are going to collect equally. As Rashi points out, the line from the top, Shniya Vitra, Ivda Iser Nechasim Shalah. She loses the rights to get the 10th of the Nechasim that really should have been hers. V'loya Amrina Tigbi Iser Nechasim Berisha. We do not say that she first gets the 10th, and then Vashar Yachloiku B'Shaveh, and the rest they split up equally. Why not? The time the whole takana of the Easter of the 10th of the Nechasim, a big sugi that we learned in Subis, was why so that the daughter has cash to get married. But in this case, what do you mean cash to get married? You're about to collect the whole estate. So if you're going to collect the whole estate, the second daughter loses her rights to get her 10th. So the Amar Lei, again, we're in the middle of a raya, as you can tell from the Vav. The Amar Lei Rav Chanina, and Rav Chanina said to Rav Yechanan, Gedayla Mizu Amru. They taught even a bigger chiddush. Moitzian leparnasa, that what we collect from the purchasers for the nedunya of the daughter. Vein moitzian lemezayna, but not for her food. Vat Imrim Shniya Vitra, and you're telling me that the second daughter forfeits her right? What do you mean? If she's even allowed to collect from land that was sold, meaning Rachel took 10%. Leah says, where's my 10%? Before she gets a chance, the son dies. So now Leah comes to Bezdin, and the Gemara just thought, Leah, what are you complaining about? You're about to get $1 million from the estate. Don't worry about your meager 10%. So Rav Chanina says, Rav Yechon, what are you talking about? Leah could even collect for her parnasa from someone else. If the father had sold a piece of land, and it's meshubit, and it was sold with a chrayis, with security, that person is going to have to pay for this nedunya. So if she could go and collect even from someone else, of course she should be able to get from the estate itself. Says the Gemara of Parnasa, but when it comes to Parnasa, when it comes to a dowry, they make as kaitza, that it's set amount, michtav like siva, but it's not written down, and yet v'kam aitzia, and yet Rav Chanina said she could collect it. So what do we see? We see that the integral ingredient is kaitza. So too in our case, if Reuven's coming to collect the field that he bought from Shimon, and the field was stolen goods, and he says to Shimon, you got to give it to me. And we want to know what is the reason why Reuven cannot collect from other purchasers of Shimon. The reason is because it's not kite, so it's not set. As we see from over here, that once it would be set, like a case of an adunya of a dowry, parnasa, then you would be able to collect. Says Gemara, no raya, shiny parnasa came this like kala, keman dechsiva dami. An adunya, a parnasa, has a call, everyone knows about it, and therefore it's as if it's written down, and therefore that's the reason why. So maybe you need both, kaitzi and ksiva. So we can't bring a raya from this case. So the Gemara continues, and the Gemara goes back. Yesterday, Ula taught us that if we have, someone has a chiyuv to pay someone else, but it's not written down. Something that's not written down, you're not able, said Ula, to collect from the nechasim mishubadim. So it says the Gemara, Masiv Ravuna Bar Minayach. It's a little bit confusing, because it would seem that this Masiv Ravuna Bar Minayach is going what we just said, but as we'll see in a moment, it is not. So Masiv Ravuna Bar Minayach, Meisu B'Noiseihem. What happens if both men die? Ben Isayim, their Mesu, both men die. Ben Isayim, the Zainis Menachasim and Echayrin, their daughters are supported from the regular properties. Vihin is Zainais, and Vihin is Zainais, and the daughter, and the other daughter is the Zainais Menachasim Mishubadim. Why? Because she is like a Baal Aschay. Now this is a little bit difficult because the Gemara doesn't really speak out the whole case. So let's go to Rashi. And Rashi tells us what's going on over here. Rashi smakim amen meisa ben Hossein nizaynes. Says Rashi, Hanois Aisha marries a woman who paska yimai lazon as bita chameshanim. And this really was the ksuba, the sugya, in ksubas that we have learned. But someone marries a woman and he stipulates to support her daughter for 5 years. V'girsha b'teich chameshanim, and he divorces this woman within the 5 years. And then he marries someone else who and he makes a second stipulation. So we have Ruvain that has 2 wives, Rachel and Leah. Both of them have conditions that Ruvain says, I'm going to support your daughters for 5 years. What is the halacha? He has to support for 5 years. The halacha is, one of them he actually gives the food, and one of them he gives the cash. So Mesu, what happens if he dies? The daughters are supported from the chazim b'nei chayrin. This is, of course, where it comes into our sigya. We do not collect for the woman nor for her daughters. You do not collect from the chasim mishubadim. So she, the wife, and any of their children do not get from the chasim mishubadim. Vahi, and she, who is this special she? Oisa bas ishtoi. So there's 2 sets of children. He made a special stipulation for her kids that she brought into the marriage, that he's going to support them for 5 years. We'll call these the step kids. And their own kids just get the regular ksuba and support. So that stepdaughter, that Oisa bas isha, she does get from the chassid b'shubadim. Why? Because that was part of the Tanai that he made upon the marriage. So Rashi now articulates the question. We're still in Rashi. Alma kivan de kaitzi chamishanim. What do we see? Since he made he set amount for 5 years. Afal gav deloy ksiva. No one ever said this was written down. It was a stipulation that he made at the time of the marriage that for 5 years I'm going to support this girl. So what do we see? Daf Yomi mishabdi. You collect from mishubadim ki Rav Chanina v'kasha le'ula. And this is how it relates back to our previous sugya. I said that it's going back on Ula because Ula was the opposing opinion. Rav Chanina was the one that said that once it's kaiti, it's enough. Ula yesterday taught us no, it has to be ksiva as well. So says the Gemara, you see from this case that kaitzi is going to be enough even without ksiva. Says the Gemara, back into the Gemara, hachamayaskina, no raya. Why? B'shekanu miyadai. The case is talking about where they made a kinyan. They made a special kinyan that this daughter is going to be able to be supported, and that's why she gets from the chutz b'shubadim. Says the Gemara, yachi banu isnani. What do you mean if they made a kinyan? We assume that they made a kinyan for all the kids. Answers the Gemara, no, b'shekanu lazev l'kanu lazev. They made a kinyan only for her daughter and not for their daughters. The Gemara asks, Avi Iskasha, my Paska, who told you? Where do you make up such a thing, make such a differentiation? Answers the Gemara, Bas Ishtoi, Ta'avoi B'Shas Kinyan, Mahani La Kinyan. Let's remember, he's marrying this woman and she's coming into the marriage with children. So that daughter's there. The daughter's there at the time of the Kinyan, so the Kinyan works for her and she's going to get from the Chaz B'Shabadim. But B'Toi, his own daughter, T'Lavi B'Shas Kinyan, Le Mahani La Kinyan. Therefore, the Kinyan is not going to help. And if this sounds familiar, carbon copy Gemara existed in Kesubis. Asks the Gemara, 1 second. You're making up a case that his own daughters were not there at the time of the kinyan. Why not? We thought the case was like Rashi spoke out. Really, they were there. And how is this possible? How is his own kids there at the time of the kinyan to his own wife? 1 second, you can't have the kid before you got married. The case was where he divorced her and then he remarried her. So the kids were actually around at the time of this second marriage. So seemingly, if they made a kinyan, even his own kids should have been there. So why does his own kids not able to collect from the chas b'shabadim and only her daughter? daughter. Answers the Gemara, new teretz. Ella, bezdin kachla, his own daughter. Why is she getting to eat? Why is she getting supported after he dies as a Tanai bezdin? That bezdin made a Tanai that one has to feed his own children after his own death. Therefore, lo mehani lo kinyan. The fact that they made a kinyan doesn't help because there already was an obligation from Bezdin. But Bas Ishon, you don't have an obligation to support your wife's kids. Again, that she brings into the marriage. To love it tonight Bezdin, no, but tonight Bezdin, and that's kachla. Therefore, mahani lo kinyan. Ironically, because there's no chiyuv and he only created his own chiyuv, therefore mahani lo kinyan. So says the Gemara, that irony that we just pointed out is shver. The fact that his own kids are part of it tonight, Bezdin is going to make it worse for them. Can't be. So rather, says the Gemara, Elabito, his own daughter, since she's eating from Tanai Bezdin, since he had an obligation for a Bezdin to feed his own daughter, we assume that maybe he left over metaltalin for her. Since maybe he left over metaltalin for her after he dies, we don't let this girl collect from the Chasim Mishubadim. Whereas when it comes to his wife's daughter, he did not do that, and that's the reason. So it comes out, it's true. It is Migra Gara, but it's a technicality. Because it could be that indeed the daughter is really more taken care of from the fact that maybe Sarare Atafse. So continues the Gemara, Tashema, trying to again figure out the machlekes of Chanina and Ula, whether we need ksiva, ukaitza or not. Amar Rav Nasan, a Masai. Says Rav Nasan, a Masai. In what case, when we have stolen land and the shvach of the stolen land, in what case can you not collect from the other fields? Bizman shekhodam michoy shel sheni, when the second purchaser came before l'shivchai shel rishon, came before the shvach of the first one. That this first person put money into the field, but that only came after the other guy bought his field. So he already bought his field. So you want to collect for your improvements, you can't collect for that field because that field was bought prior. But let's say the reverse. Let's say the first guy already put the money into the field and then the seller sold another field to the second guy. Then indeed, you could collect. So what do you see from here? Says the Gemara, so what do you see? It's only because it's not kadam. However, if it was kadam, he would collect even though it was not written down. So again, what do we see? We see that as long as it's going to be kaiti, should be enough. Answers the Gemara after this long and quite a difficult discussion. Tanohi is indeed a machlekes tanoyim. The Tanya in Motzian lachilas peiros u'leshvach karkayis u'lemazayin isha ve'habanais meinachasim mishubadim. Why? Why? Lefi she'ein ksuvim. Amar Rav Yosef, Chimatik and Olam Yish Bezuv Aloi Ein Kitzuvim. So the machlekes Chanina and Ula is indeed a machlekes in this brayso between the Tanakama and Rav Yosef. And it is late, difficult Gemaras, but we continue. 10 lines from the bottom, the two dots. V'amoitzi mitzia lo yishava. That if someone finds a mitzia, he does not have to swear that he's indeed returning it. I come to return your watch, and you say, wait, what about the wallet that I lost also? I say, I only found the watch. I don't have to make a shvua to you that I did not find your wallet. Amar Rav Yitzchak shnei kisin kishurin. Two wallets, two purses tied together. Matzatali. That belonged to me. I don't know what you're talking about. I only found one wallet. Nishba, then he does have to swear. Meaning, if I'm returning you, I give you a case of a wallet and a watch. But let's say I returned your wallet. You say, where's the other wallet? The two of them are connected. I say, no, I only found one. Then that's a case of a maidim mixas. Then you do have to indeed swear. I don't want to say maidim mixas, but that form. Shnei shvarim kishurim asatili. Or if one says you found two oxen that were tied together. Says Mar, my time is shvarim menachti mehadadi. You know why? Because shvarim could pull away from each other. Menachti mehadadi, and therefore the fact that I only found one, it's very plausible. Says the Gemara, whereas kisin lo menachti mehadadi, wallets don't have a life of their own, therefore not going to pull away from each other. Continues the Gemara, shnei shvarim kishurim masata. I come to you and say, you found the two of my oxen tied together. I found it, it's true. and I already returned to you echad me'em, one of them. If he says, I found both, and I already gave you one, and here's the other one, as well in this case, you do have to indeed make a shvuah. End of this brisa of Rav Yitzchak. Asks the Gemara, Rav Yitzchak, let's say, what happened to our Mishnah? Rav Yitzchak, you seem to be contradicting blatantly our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said, in the case of Maitzi Mitzia, you don't make a Shvuah. And you, Rav Yitzchak, are giving me countless scenarios in which it's a case of a Maitzi Mitzia. It's a case that I'm returning your lost object. And yet you, Rav Yitzchak, are claiming that I have to make a Shvuah in all these cases. Says the Gemara, you know what? Yes, indeed, Rav Yitzchak is not agreeing with our Mishnah. And you know why? Because who? The Amar Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov. Because Rav Yitzchak holds like Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov, the Tanya in the top line of the Aleph on the base. The Tanya Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov, Aimer Pa'amim Sha'adam Nishva Al Tainis Atzmai. There are times that a person has to swear on his own time, on his own claim. If I say there's $100 to your father in my hands, and I eat part of it, that's a might of a mixas. There is an issue we have to swear. No, I'm returning your lost object. You didn't know that I have your father's money, so I'm returning a lost object. Potter, and therefore it's going to be Pater. So the Gemara is saying that our case, Rav Yitzchak, is like Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov. Just like Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov's case, I say, I owed your father $100, and I utilized 50, so I have to pay back 50. There's a shvuah, even though you didn't know anything about your father's monies. So too in our case, we're assuming. So too in our case, when I'm returning a lost object, we assume that it's the same thing. So Rav Yitzchak is going to be going like Rav Eliezer. Says the Gemara of Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov. Leslie, Mesha Aveda Potter. Where does Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov come from? He doesn't hold of the Mesha Aveda that when I'm returning something you didn't know about, I'm going to be Potter. Oh my Rav Betanoi Katan. It's when the child made the Taina, and now this is his response. Says the Gemara, Katan Midi Meshasha Isbei. Who cares that the Katan made a Taina? Is there any relevance to the Taina of a Katan? V'atanah, we learned in a Mishnah, Ein Nishbayin Al Taina Schir Shaita V'Katan. There's no shvuah when it comes to taina v'cheir sheita v'katan. So who cares that the katan made such a taina? Says the Gemara, a line that we had a very similar line yesterday. My katan gadol, really he's a gadol. V'maikar lekatan the gavimila da'aviv. Katan who? Regarding the father, he's considered a katan because he does not really know what's going on. It says, so his whole brayso at the top doesn't make any sense. It says that if he came, it's tenis atzmai. What do you mean tenis atzmai? Someone else made the claim. Says the Gemara, you're right. Tenis achirmo does atzmai. Says, what do you mean? Every case is that. Kulu tenis achirmo does atzmai ninu. Ella, says the Gemara, you are correct. So let's give a noob shot to wrap up the day. Ella, b'derabba kamifligi. Rather, you know what's going on over here. Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov and the Chachamim in this top brisa are arguing in the opinion of Rabbah. Again, the Chachamim said, El Kamesha Avedu Potter. The Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov said, you're going to have to swear, and he called it Tainis Atzmai. So argue on this din of Rabbah. Dama Rabbah. What is the reason that the Torah says, my demixes that Taina has to swear? You never have the brazenness to be and say to the guy who lent you money and deny the whole thing. And really, this is the very tenet, the very basis of the whole Bava Mitzvah. And really, I want to admit I tell you the whole thing. But what am I supposed to tell you if I do a kafir? You know why? The reason, really, I want to deny the whole thing because I don't have the money. And the reason why I didn't, because they not the maze fun of And on the other hand, really, I would love to admit the whole thing to you. If I did, you know why I didn't? Because it's shamuti to come I'm just stalling for time. Savar adav lezuzi paranale. So you know what? I'm just going to admit to half, and then when I find the money, I'll pay. So I'm stalling for time, and therefore, because of these conflicting svaras that are going through the guy's mind, Amar Rachmana says the Torah of 5 lines on the bottom of the Alpha Mebeis Rami Shvu Aliyeh. Let's place a Shvuah on him. So the impetus of the Shvuah is so that he comes to admit. So finally we conclude, Rav Elazar ben Yaakov Savar. Rav Elazar ben Yaakov says that in the case of Tainas Atzmai, when I say I owe your father 100 and here's 50, doesn't make a difference between the Malveh, the lender, the Baal Chayiv, or to his son. He would never be so brazen. Therefore, La Mesha Vedu. It's not a case of Mesha Vedu. Why not? Because the regular svaras of Maidim and Mixas apply. For Rabbana and Savri, when it comes to himself, he's not meiz. Avo bibinoi meiz, and therefore midlo meiz Mesha Vedu. So says the Gemara, we thought that we're going to bring a Machlekes Tanoim between Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, and we thought that this is going to factor into the din of our Mishnah, and it's going to be a kash on the Mishnah for Hamotzi Mitzia Le Yishava. The Gemara concludes that really the Machlekes is going on over here on the top of the Alpha Mabez between Rav Elazar ben Yaakov and the Rabbanan is a sidebar Machlekes how the din of Rabbah plays into a child. Do we say that one would have the Ahaz or not, and thereby is it called Mesha Aved or not? We'll pick it up from the Mishnah the next year. B'siyata Tishmaya.